here today. Thanks for braving the elements. We got our last snow of the year, hopefully. Keep our fingers crossed that we don't get an April snow. Our program today is from Carl Bloss. He's going to be talking to us about electric vehicles. We have student guests from West Michigan Christian. All right. We're going to start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a reflection from Alan Alpert, and we'll do the four-way test at the end of the meeting. Start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. All right, you may be seated.
Instead of an invocation, I have a reflection. The story is a story that I heard about 20 years ago, but I think it's still relevant today. It was told by Hedda Sherapin, who was the executive producer for Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And the story goes like this. There was a little girl that came home, and she said to her mom, "Where's Kitty?" And her mother said, "Honey, Kitty is dead and in heaven with God." That was it. Well, the next day, the young girl asked the same question. This went on for 3 or 4 days. And finally, the mother said, "Honey, is there something that bothers you or you don't understand?" And she said, "Yes. What in the world would God want with a dead cat?" Now, when you think of that, it's a funny story. But when you think of communications, that when we talk to each other, what one word may mean to me may not be the same meaning that you have. And especially for children who haven't formed the vocabulary that they are going to be. So in terms of reflection, whatever your religious tradition, whether it's secular or Christian or Muslim, Buddhist, Hindu, or Jewish, think about that in communication, because it's not always what we think is meaningful, it's what the other person has. And communication is a process with both the speaker and the listener. Let us reflect. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Rabbi. Enjoy lunch, and we'll be back in a few minutes with our visiting Rotarians and guests and our student guests. Okay, we're going to get back to our meeting. Introduce our visitors, visiting Rotarians and guests. So if you're a Rotarian that has a guest, make your way up. I think Claire Root Benson, Mike Vogus, and I have a guest today as well. And Jackie will hand you the mic, and you can hit your mark right on the floor and introduce yourself to the group.
Hi, I'm Mike Vogus. I'm very pleased to introduce my guest today, my sweetie, as in my wife, Lori, and my son, Eric, who is visiting from Tokyo, where he lives and works. Thank you.
All right, my guest is Jim Dennison. He is, let me make sure I get this right, the Chief Appellate Attorney in Kent County, and he is running for the Court of Appeals in West Michigan, which is a 17-county region which encompasses Muskegon. Please welcome Jim.
Hello, I'm Claire Root Benson, and I have 3 amazing ladies with me today. The first of which I think you guys have been introduced to a couple of times now, Kendra Robinson, local attorney who is applying to join the club. And she's with me today as well because she has been working with my wonderful 2 students here on their Law Day speeches. The students are Adeline Whitmer, freshman at Muskegon High School, and Kylie Foster, junior, right? Sophomore, we still have her for a while, at Muskegon High School. They're both leaders in the newly reformed and reactive Interact Club at Muskegon High School. And I'm gonna let them tell you two little announcements about what they've been up to in their first fundraiser in the last week.
So we as Interact, we have gathered pop cans and we have raised $470. And out of that, we are donating $95 to the Ukraine relief donation. Yeah.
We are also involved in two other projects, one of which is planting trees by a local highway for beautification and to help the ecosystem. And yeah, we're getting involved with a beach cleanup in April that is also for other Interact clubs in the county.
Okay, so, can you go this way?
Good afternoon, Rotary. Let's get John in here. All right, loud applause, because it's my alma mater and Greg's alma mater. We have West Michigan Christian in the house. To introduce two of the seniors is Josh Skolma. He is the counselor at the high school.
Thank you for inviting us. Yes, my name is Josh Skolma. I've been at WMC for a little over 20 years now. We're excited to finally get back into somewhat of a normal routine now at school. Looking forward to the spring, maybe not today, but we'll get there, and the end of high school for our seniors. So with me today are two of our not only best and brightest, but in my personal opinion, two of the nicest kids in the school, Zoe Vanderstelt and Owen Bernardo. We're going to tell you a little bit about themselves.
Hi, my name is Zoe. As Mr. Skolman just said, I'm a senior at WMC. I've been on the golf team, the tennis team, bowling team. I've done musical, fall play. I am a part of student council. I'm a tutor. I'm a small group leader. I'm the president of the senior class. And yeah, and then in my community, I've been an intern for the Muskegon community, Muskegon Civic Theater for their Footlights Fun Camp every summer. And next year I plan to attend Rollins College in Orlando, Florida to major, thank you, to major in biology and minor in neuroscience and Spanish.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Owen Bernardo. Over the past 4 years, I've been a member of the basketball team at WMC. As you can tell, I'm a pretty tall dude, so I'd like to think I'm pretty good at it. I've been a member of the concert band as well, where I've played over 4 different instruments. Over the past 2 years, I've been a small group leader, just like Zoe has been. And this year, I've also decided to run track and field, and I've been a member of the jazz band as well, where I play trombone. Next year, I plan on going to Calvin University, where I plan to play basketball instead of econ. Perfect. You guys can head down.
Yeah. Owen, I've watched you play basketball since you've been 7th, 8th grade, and I will attest you are very good at basketball. Okay, on to our program. Rich Houdeman is going to introduce our speaker today, and I'm very excited to hear Carl present to the club. Carl and I were reminiscing. We were in Leadership West Michigan way back in 2009 together. And one of our classmates was Dale Nesberry, who is retiring. So I think we better pick up the pace here. All right. Rich?
Thanks, Jason. Okay, very excited to have Carl Bloss here, fellow colleague, lives right here in Muskegon. But Carl Bloss retired from the 25-year engineering career in the chemical industry to focus on his passion of electric vehicles. He has organized EV events like National Drive Electric Week and Drive Electric Earth Day, started multiple EV social media groups, as well as a blog related to driving electric. Carl is the owner of 4 plug-in vehicles, a Tesla Model S, a Kia Niro EV, a Chevrolet Volt, and a Zero DSR motorcycle, and turned his passion into a second career as an EV education and outreach coordinator with Consumers Energy. Please welcome my colleague, Carl Bloss.
Thanks, Rich. Yeah, I'm a Muskegonite. I live right downtown here. I drove the company Bolt here, but it's kind of ridiculous because I live 2 blocks from here at First and Clay. So yeah, I came here the first time with the Bayer plant in North Muskegon, and then moved away. Anyway, I'm back. Let's talk about EVs. Could I have the first slide, please?
Rotary. I'm
Perfect.
just listening. So.
All right.
Yeah.
So when I left here, I had the chance to
I brought some Easter
take
colored
an
Rolos.
expat assignment with Bayer.
chocolate
I lived in
kinds.
Germany for several years, and at the time, pretty much the vehicle that you were given by the company was a diesel vehicle. We bought a second diesel because they were just so darn efficient. The price of diesel at that time even was around $8 a gallon. And so right off the bat, the diesels are very efficient. But then something happened. I took a trip to London. All the taxis were diesel, all the vehicles were diesels, and you come home at the end of the day, and sorry to be gross, you blow your nose, but it's black. It's like, this is not good. So it made me rethink diesels. They still have their purpose, but I started looking into EVs, and it was the perfect time because that's about the time that the Chevy Volt and the Nissan Leaf and some of those early EVs came out. So, and I had to start over with vehicles anyway, so since I came back to the US, so that's when I started looking into it. So I'm an engineer, so of course I have to overanalyze everything. And so one of the things I looked at, internal combustion engine, I was a gas head. I had Porsches, I had Audis. So, I love my cars. But the reality is there are about 10,000 moving parts in a regular combustion engine. And it's really 1800s technology. We've added Bluetooth and some other cool stuff, fuel injection, but to be honest, it's still a fairly old technology. And so the efficiency of a gas car is all dependent on the amount that you can extract from that fuel. Okay, and liquid fuels like gas or diesel are very, very energy dense. Unfortunately, a gas car wastes about 85% of that. Most of that goes into heat and friction and all kinds of other things. So those 33 kilowatt hours per gallon, most of that is wasted. A battery electric vehicle, on the other hand, tends to be very, very efficient. So you can turn 80 to 90% of the energy that you get from that charge back into actual into movement. And very few moving parts, and really the key, what's launched this second revolution in EVs is the battery technology, energy density that's available in those batteries. And by the way, that Ford Mustang Mach-E on the lower right there, that's right here, the charging station, which is free, by the way, right by First and Western. So gas prices are on everybody's mind today. When I made this graph, I was looking at $3 a gallon. So just to compare, $3 a gallon, average MPG of 25 is that bar on the right. For 50 miles, you're going to spend about $6.40 on fuel. And then the other pieces that you're seeing there are the energy costs depending on how you get the energy. If you charge at home at the lowest off-peak rate that, for example, here in Consumers Energy that we offer nighttime, you're looking about $2.63 versus that $6.40. If you charge during the peak times, you come home in the middle of the day, you're not able to charge overnight, you want to top it up, you're going to pay a little bit more. And then public charging tends to be a little bit more because the people who put in the infrastructure need to recover some of those costs. And then the DC fast charging, the really, really quick ones that let you take road trips, and I'll talk more about what those are. Those are going to be the most expensive, but they're still cheaper than gas. And the other thing is, This is at $3 a gallon. So that graph is already outdated. So the other thing is maintenance is significantly reduced with EVs. Again, you don't have all those moving parts, you don't have oil changes. One of the things my wife loved when we started going to EVs, she wasn't the one to take the car to the dealer anymore and have to deal with the mechanics, because we basically went twice a year to get our tires rotated out for summer, winter. That's it. So no oil filters, no transmission fluid, no intake air filters, no belts, no hoses, spark plugs, ignition wires. All that stuff is just gone and you don't need to replace it. The brake wear is significantly reduced. My 2015 Tesla has 108,000 miles on its original brakes, because most of the time you're using that regenerative braking. So what do you need? Wiper blades, a cabin filter, the thing that filters the air that comes into your HVAC system, which you can pay the dealer to do $150 to do it, or you can buy it on eBay and do it for $8, and you can do it yourself. And tires. EVs have a lot of torque, so you might want to step on the accelerator a little bit and you might spin the tires, so be careful, you'll burn tires pretty quickly. I'm on my third set with the Tesla. So where does the energy come from, right? Nothing is for free. Everything we do, as we go into Earth Month, everything we do on this planet has an impact. And whether it's driving a gas car to driving an EV, buying anything, everything has an environmental cost. So fundamentally, EVs are agnostic where the energy comes from. So whether you power it by coal or by solar panels, the car doesn't care. So this is a representation of the fuel mix that Consumers Energy currently has. And moving forward, our clean energy plan will get us out of coal by 2025 and carbon neutral by 2040. And so what that means is when you're driving an EV, the longer you drive it, the more environmentally friendly it gets. We can have a separate discussion. I don't have time for it right now, but obviously there are manufacturing costs. But typically the overall life cycle of an EV still has less of an environmental footprint than the manufacturer of the comparable, what we call ICE car, internal combustion engine. So back to my story, my first vehicle, I also wasn't sure if this was going to work out for me. So in 2014, I bought a 2012 Nissan Leaf. I had 20 miles of range, or 20 miles of driving, commuting, round trip. I needed some occasional evening errands, and bonus, my employer had free charging. But even if they didn't, it still would have been cheaper to operate. So that's the car I got. And we also bought a minivan at the time because we still had a family of 4. And what ended up happening is we used that EV all the time just because it was so cheap to run. And then in 2015, we were fully convinced. We bought that Tesla. That became our road trip vehicle. In 2018, we sold the minivan. So the 2 to 3 times that we use it per year, we rented one. By the way, if you're ever looking for a great deal, Lakeshore Chrysler in Montague, great prices for renting vehicles. So a little plug to a local business. And then in 2019, I bought an electric motorcycle. So if you're one of the people that sits outside here at Unruly or Pigeon Hill, you might see me buzzing past every once in a while on my Zero. So where do you charge? 80% of charging happens at home. So it's different than a gas station model. You're not running to the gas station most of the time. By the way, that's my wife there as a model because we were supposed to use some footage from for a Consumers Energy publication, and I didn't get the rights to something, so I told my wife, go out there and plug in the car. I'm taking a picture of you. So that's Christina. And then at workplace, that picture on the right, that was our workplace charging that we had put in at Bayer in Kansas City when I lived there. And then in public, that's a picture I just took of a brand new Rivian R1T in Bloomington, Illinois. They have a factory in Normal. Really cool vehicle. One of the first electric pickup trucks, and we're starting to see them here as well in West Michigan. So charging basics, so level 1 charging, fundamentally, any plug that you have, you can charge an EV. It's just going to be very, very slow. And so the cable on the top right is the one that you typically get with an EV. You plug it into an outlet. You get 3 or 4 miles of range per hour of charging overnight. For some people, it's good enough. For a plug-in hybrid, it might be good enough. I'll talk about what that is in a minute. But for most people, you want to end up getting something with a bit more charging speed and power, and so you go to what we call level 2 charging. So that's a 240 volts, 40 80 amp, a little bit more than what an electric dryer would be. And you have this outlet there, and you plug it into that in your garage, and then there's a charging unit. You plug your car into it, and overnight, it's typically charged. Then for road trips, we have DC fast charging. I'm not going to get into the AC/DC type technology at the moment. That picture right there is actually at the Fruitport Meijer. So you'll probably see the big bank of Tesla chargers, but right next to is the 2 orange charge point units for basically every other vehicle in Tesla. Tesla has kind of a closed network that they may be opening up, but this is what allows vehicles to take a road trip. I recently drove my Kia Niro EV from Muskegon to Kansas City, no problem. You can do that today. It's getting better all the time, and that's part of what Consumers does as well. So how do you find it? As the saying goes, there's an app for that. First of all, the Alternative Fuels Data Center, so energy.gov, has a map that you can look up online. Most EV drivers end up carrying an app called PlugShare, which started its life as EV owners who had home charging willing to share their plugs with other people that came to the area. But now that's almost not necessary anymore, but they're still there. If you see the little blue house icons, those are people that will let you charge. I took advantage of that one time. I was up with my motorcycle up in the UP, and a guy had a 50 amp RV plug, and they let you plug in. Refused to take any money from me, but it's still cool. That network is still out there. And then you have your level 2 chargers, the ones we have right here, First and Western, right by the depot, Pere Marquette. Those are all level 2 chargers. They show up in green. Those DC fast chargers, the Tesla superchargers, show up in orange. So depending on what vehicle you have, you can filter it for what you need, what your charging speed is going to be. It has a trip planner tool, all kinds of cool stuff. And so that's what we typically carry. There are other apps that we tend to carry from those charging networks, so we can activate them, also see live which stations are currently available, which ones are being used, if there are any out of service, that sort of thing. So why isn't everybody driving an EV? So 2 main reasons in my mind. One of them is still cost. The upfront cost of an EV is still a little bit higher than a comparable gas car. And why is that? It's the cost of the batteries. And the plot that you're seeing here is the cost progression of battery capacity of dollars per kilowatt hour. And so there's a magic number of about $100 per kilowatt hour where we expect to have cost parity with ICE vehicles, meaning the same price for a comparable vehicle, whether it's electric or whether it's gas powered. Right now, we're about at $137 per kilowatt hour, so we're getting pretty darn close. And by the way, the picture on the right is a cutaway of a Tesla. The battery sits in the bottom. It's a skateboard platform. It's kind of really neat, and it allows the designers to do cool things like put a trunk in the front. We call it a frunk. So if you've gone to like the Grand Rapids Auto Show, they had the Ford F-150 Lightning, and there's a huge frunk, and get this, they made a cooler out of it. Now, literally, how cool is that? There's a drain plug in the bottom, so you dump a bag of ice in there, put your drinks in there for tailgating. When you're done, you pull the plug and let the water drain out, right? So there's some really neat stuff you can do with EVs. And then the other piece is this whole road trip thing. And really, you can sum it up into range anxiety. And really, range anxiety ends up, once you start driving an EV, it turns into range awareness. You know what you can and can't do. You're not going to drive to Alaska in a gas car without putting a jerry can on the back. You're not going to run out of gas. I've driven 160,000 miles of electric. I've never been stranded at the side of the road because you know what your car can and can't do. So you're just not going to go there. Have I had to make diversions to do an extra charge? Absolutely, right? But really, this whole range anxiety thing, if you're just commuting, if you're just coming home, plugging in every night, just like your cell phone, it's full in the morning, you do your thing, you come back in the evening, you plug it in, you forget about it. In the morning, it's full again. That's actually more convenient than buying gas because you're never standing in the slush or, oh, geez, I got to go get gas. I forgot. It's on my way, right? Because you've already plugged it in. Are you going to forget to plug in while your app normally nags you at 10 p.m. or whenever you set it up? Please plug me in because I need a charge. So this DC fast charging, that's the part that we need to get comfortable with as we move forward. And that's, again, where Consumers Energy gets involved. When I first moved to this area, back to the area in 2018, there were no DC fast chargers north of the I-96 corridor. And now I took my Nissan Leaf that I just traded up for something a little bit better and drove it up to Frankfurt, no problem. Charging stations everywhere if you know where to look. So that's the piece that we need to get get passed as far as adoption. Now, the other thing that I didn't mention here is there are some use cases that aren't there yet. If you're going to take, if you have a dually and you're dragging a fifth wheel camper or a horse trailer, those vehicles aren't on the market yet. But for most other types of light-duty electric vehicles, those are already available. It's just a matter of getting your hands on them, which is crazy right now anyway with getting a car. So where consumers gets involved is we want to incentivize EV drivers to charge overnight off-peak when the power is readily available. What we don't want to happen is in the summertime, everybody's running their air conditioner. People come home at 5, 6 o'clock at night, they charge in their car, and we add to that demand. So that's that first curve on the left. That's what we don't want. So what we want to do, we incentivize through pricing and other measures EV drivers to charge overnight. You know, unless you're doing shift work, if you're have a normal daily schedule, we want you to charge overnight, and there are easy ways to do that. The chargers, the EVs themselves, have the smarts so that when you plug it in at 5 or 6 o'clock, it's not going to start charging until 11 p.m. when it's cheaper rates or on weekends. And then Muskegon has already taken advantage of this. As I mentioned, the Power My Drive rebates for the public chargers. All of the ones that are downtown now and at Pere Marquette took advantage of that rebate. We also still, and those are now, there's a wait list now. So those are right about the time Will Ferrell came out with his Norway ad, all of a sudden everybody wanted one of our rebates. So that's already been a year. And so now we're struggling to keep up with demand. Same thing for the DC fast chargers. We have a new version of our program coming out, the Power My Drive. It is going to focus more on multi-dwelling units as well as any hospitality overnight accommodations. I'm talking to you, Delta Marriott, that you can get charger rebates for those. So multi-dwelling units would be condos, apartments, anything like that. The Watermark, by the way, took advantage of it, so that's a great example. And we do kind of going backwards here, but then the residential rebates. If you have a home and you have a garage, you have a place to charge, a driveway, we still have that home charger rebate. It's a $500 rebate towards a charging station that typically costs around $650. One of the brands that we give a rebate on, the NLX Juice Box, is currently on sale already for Earth Month for $5.99. So your out-of-pocket cost for that is $99. Now, you still need the circuit. You need to talk to an electrician. We're working on a program to vet electricians to help with that process as well. So what can you do to find out more? So I always say contact your electric utility. That would be, in our case, would be me or Rich or anyone else that's in your service territory. Almost all electric utilities have some kind of programs for EVs. And I'll be here afterwards. I have some business cards that I can hand out to you. Go to a local dealer. A lot of local dealers have cars now, and go and test drive them. Check them out. Go to plugstar.com. It's a free site from a nonprofit that lets you kind of put your use case, how many miles you drive, that sort of thing, and kind of spits out the EVs that are available that might fit your use case. If, like me, you had the luxury of multiple vehicles, consider making one of those electric as a commuter vehicle. There are a lot of good used EVs and plug-in hybrids on the market now. And I'm going to put a plug in here. April 30th at the Muskegon Farmers Market, there's an organization called Plug in America. We organize events for basically EV car shows. So we have one coming up April 30th at the Farmers Market during Farmers Market hours, 8 to 2. And then the other things, there are a lot of social media groups. I have some cards with me with a QR code. You're welcome to take one of those. Yeah, I think that's all I have. So any questions you might have?
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot, Carl. Carl, nice round of applause. Does anyone have any questions for Carl? Jackie has the mic. She will bring you the mic. Dave Alexander, our always intrepid reporter.
Carl, talk to us about snow, about if we feel a need in our situation to have either an all-wheel drive or a four-wheel drive, how does that relate to an EV?
Yeah, great question. So first of all, EVs tend to be relatively heavy, so they dig down very well into the snow. I would recommend that you do get snow tires And there are some brands that are specific to EVs. So the EVs actually do very well in the snow. If we're talking about cold weather and range and things like that, yes, it's true. EVs do lose range because a battery is an electrochemical process which is temperature dependent. So, maybe you're going to lose 20% of range, something like that. But this is all manageable. There are some things you can do, like preheat the car before you leave your house. You can do it while you're still plugged in. And you can do it in your garage without asphyxiating yourself because there are no emissions, right? And there are a lot of four-wheel drive vehicles out there. My Tesla is an all-wheel drive, and the cool thing is it has two separate motors. There's no drive shaft between them because it doesn't need one. So there are definitely options there that are Michigan-friendly.
All right, Doug?
Yes.
Yeah, Carl, could you talk a little bit about battery technology and doing some reading that, some concerns about lithium sources in this country and other places?
Sure. As I said, anything we do as humans has an environmental impact. So there are materials that go into EVs, such as lithium for the batteries, same as in all of our cell phones and computers and iPads and that sort of thing. There are also some more rare earth materials, the nickel, cadmium, things like that. So, we should impress upon the manufacturers to source those from non-conflict countries. There's also research going on. Tesla's trying to take cobalt out of their batteries so that that's no longer an issue. The holy grail of batteries is what's called solid-state batteries, at which point you're using more commonly used materials like silicone. So there's lots of research going in that area. And if we talk about recycling, there's some neat stuff that the manufacturers are doing today already. They're labeling the materials in the batteries, in the vehicles, so that when inevitably that car goes from its cradle to grave cycle, that there are easy ways to separate those out and to get those materials back. Just like today, when you take your 12-volt battery to a car parts store, there's a core charge. Well, it's the same thing. The EV companies can't wait to get their hands back on those batteries. Number one, for a second use, for stationary storage, because those batteries typically still have 60–70% of their capacity. But beyond that, the third life, they want to get their hands back on those materials, and there's already an industry that's coming out to try to recycle all those materials.
Okay. So one more question, and did you have a comment, Rich?
You kind of answered my question because mine was going to be end-of-life batteries. Is there a plan for recycling? And so
Yeah.
you've answered that. So I got another question.
Of course.
If you drive about 15 to 20,000 miles a year, what would you expect the battery life of a compact vehicle to be?
So that's still being explored, let's say, because the first EVs that came out of the market are still out there. I can give you anecdotal numbers and what other, for example, the first long-range vehicles that really came out were the Tesla Model S. So my 2015 Model S has 108,000 miles and still has over 90% of its original capacity. So what that really means is that for the typical lifetime of a car, you're not looking at changing out the battery. It's just not going to happen. Just like a gas car loses compression and efficiency and burns oil after a while, there are things that don't work anymore very well. But the reality is there's so much life left in those batteries that you're probably not going to change it while you own the vehicle. And the other thing is that technology keeps getting better. We're now talking about million-mile batteries. So, are you going to drive a car for 40 years? I don't know. Not me. I like to have something a little bit newer. But it's a fair question. There is degradation that happens, but every time we have better technology, again, those solid-state batteries are the ones that really promise super fast charging, like gas station, 3-minute kind of charging, and almost no losses.
Rich Houdeman, did you have something? I've got a concentration of riches over there, so, all right. Susan, you good? All right. Okay, well, thank you once again, Carl. Let's have another round of applause. Carl, for presenting today. Our club will make a donation to community economic development on your behalf. And thanks once again for the very educational presentation. I'll be on the lookout for that electric motorcycle when I'm hanging it unruly. Okay, on to our birthdays. We have a lot of birthdays. Jennifer Hammond on the 30th, Brandon Turnbull on April 1st, Marty Garinser on April 2nd, Bruce Spolman on April 2nd, Tom Palmer on April 3rd, Lisa Tyler April 5th, Dave Alexander April 6th, and Orville Crane also April 6th. So I see a few of you here. If you are present, we'll sing happy birthday to you, and you can bring your $10 up to Kim for the Caring Connection. So, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. All right, happy birthday. Okay, on to our Vocational Spotlight. This is a feature that we've been doing this year to highlight our vocational avenue of service. And this week we're going to hear from Esther Rico.
Hi, I'm Esther Rico, and I have been a Rotary Rewind member since 2016. I really wanted to get involved with the Muskegon community. Working in Allendale, I don't spend a whole lot of waking time in Muskegon, where I live. And so this was a good way for me to connect with people that live in the same area that I do. I'm married. My husband and I, Kevin, just had our 24th wedding anniversary. We have a son who's 27. And we have 2 dogs, a Great Dane named Giovanni and a pug named Milo. And my son just recently adopted a hamster named Marco. So we've got full house. We love to travel. I love to cook and bake and garden and lots of outdoor activities. Really looking forward to someday in the near future retiring so I can do a lot more of those things. Love dining out, visiting all the local places, all the local breweries, local restaurants. That's another part I love about Rewind is that we get to go to different places all over town. And so that's really the cool part of Rewind too. I work at Grand Valley State University in Allendale. I am the executive assistant to the vice president for finance and administration. I have been at Grand Valley for 23 years. My job is planning, organizing, staying on top of things, making sure I see the big picture, but also, micromanage all those tiny little details to make sure, all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. I'm a planner, hence I had some written notes here today, and I'm sure I've driven most of the Chili Cook-Off Committee crazy. I want to be over-prepared for events. I want to have everything lined up, and in case of a catastrophe, do we have, something in place? Working with the students, the interactors has been really amazing. In fact, I have one of our interactors that I met through the El Salvador trip. She actually works for me in my office here.
All right, thank you very much, Esther. I believe there is a Rewind meeting tonight. Can anyone confirm? I usually get an email, but I didn't see. But if you ever have the opportunity to go to a Rewind meeting, it's a great change of pace, and they always recap our meetings here, and they have them at all kinds of venues around town. So you'll see Esther and some other Rotarians there as well. Okay, a couple announcements. Ginny Sprague and Meredith Smiley, if you want to make your way up. We're going to get an update on our brave Rotarians and our Grape Escape preview at courses.
Hello, we are into the Final Four weekend, which means there have 4 colleges and 4 brave Rotarians. They are Kansas, represented by Don Crandall, Villanova, represented by Judy Hayner, Duke, represented by Marcia Hovey-Wright, and UNC, represented by Steve Olson. Next week, we'll know who won, and we will still be drawing the names of 2 more brave Rotarians from everybody else that participated. So good luck to you all. Thank you.
Just wanted to give you a quick update on Grape Escape preview that we had last Thursday. We raised about $3,900 that will directly go into our Rotary Fund and be able to support local community development. So thank you to everyone that was able to come. There were lots of smiling faces. The wine was fantastic. The food was phenomenal. And just a reminder, if you see Aaron Mikey or any of his staff out and about in the community, to just please, again, say thank you and support courses.
I want to echo Meredith's comments. The food was just incredible at the Grape Escape at courses. And let's give Meredith another round of applause. She really drove this fundraiser and got those green dollars coming back to our club, and Aaron Mikey as well for his generosity with a wonderful evening of fellowship and great food and wine. All right, it is raffle time. As we're getting ready for the raffle, remember to fill out your feedback cards on your table. The Delta appreciates our feedback on the food and the service, and that helps them always looking to improve and do an even better job. So Rich, what are we doing first?
We're doing 20, 10, 5.
$20.
I have 803.
803. Oh, John Snyder. John, back in the... $864. Oh, Annette. See if we can send you back to the other side of the room with the last one. Last one for $5. Oh, Eric Vogus, direct from Tokyo, Japan. Major award winner. All right, that brings us to the conclusion of our meeting. Thank you, Lori, Eric, Adeline, Kylie, Carl, Kendra, Jim, Josh, Zoe, and Owen. Our program next week, it's going to be a good one. Tim Lipan is going to give us an update on the Muskegon Clippers collegiate baseball team that plays down at Marsh Field, so you'll want to be here to check that one out for sure. If everyone could please rise, we'll do the four-way test. And you can look forward to the meeting being run by Jane Klingman Scott last week, because next week I'll be on my last high school spring break. So let's do the four-way test. The things we think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? All right, thanks. Have a good week, everybody.